If you can't do this, you should tune in and learn why it's important for foot and ankle health. Welcome, Dr. Craig Lindell, and today we're back for another episode on the Prehab YouTube channel where we teach you how to take control of your health. Today's topic is going to be foot arch strengthening exercises, specifically why you should be really conscious of your foot and your ankle and your arch position while exercising. If you're dealing with a foot and ankle issue, more specifically an arch issue, I'm going to teach you how to manage it with exercises and take control of your foot and ankle and arch position. Let's dive into it. There are dozens of bones, muscles, ligaments, and 3 main arches that are a part of the foot and ankle. The coolest part is that they all work together to facilitate 3-dimensional coupled motions. This motion is what allows the bones to move amongst each other in different directions, but together as a unit. The way the foot and ankle moves in the air is different than the way it moves on the ground. In the air, just the foot and ankle are moving, but on the ground, the rest of the body is stacked on top of the foot and ankle. This really influences arch position. So, with that being said, the foot and the ankle position as well as the arch are going to be influenced the most when our foot and our ankle is on the ground. This is called a closed kinetic chain environment. If the foot is up in the air, it's open chain. If the foot is down on the ground, it's closed chain. So the most important exercise that we want to tackle first that's going to help with foot arch strengthening is going to be simply an arch raise. So we're all familiar with a toe raise, we're all familiar with a heel raise, but what's really important is that 3D frontal plane, transverse plane motion, and that's going to be this arch raise and arch drop. So I want you to take a second, pause the video. Can you even do this? Can you raise your arch? Can you lower it down? And then are you doing it where your knuckles are lifting off the ground, right? So really important, and I'm going to demonstrate it barefoot so that we can really appreciate the amount of motion, where it's coming from, what I want you to focus on, as well as doing it in a minimalist style shoe, demonstrated in a Vivo barefoot, because we're going for max feedback here. Our feet and our toes are no different than our hands and our fingers. We can get a lot of feedback and we get a lot of sensory input. So sometimes working out, exercising barefoot or in a minimalist style shoe like a Vivo barefoot is going to be perfect when we're trying to isolate the foot and the ankle. So simply in this standing position, I want you to focus on the pads of your feet, the knuckles of your toes, right? The knuckles of our hands, these are the knuckles of our toes. I want you to keep the knuckles of your toes down on the ground as best as you can. Get some weight, shift onto that side of your body. So I'm shifted here, my weight is there. And now I'm going to focus on dropping my arch inside as far as I can. And now I'm going to raise the arch as much as I can. Drop the arch, raise the arch. In this closed kinetic chain position, we can really appreciate, wow, okay, I am driving motion from my hip to drop my arch, whereas I am raising my arch by initiating outward rotation. So your arch is going to be moving, but you should feel your thigh rotating, you should feel your quad engaged, you should also feel your hip really working. We're just getting internal rotation and external rotation. I like to do it with the hip and knee a little bit bent because it's really important that we can control this motion and we can do it where we're engaged and we're a little bit loaded. If that's too challenging, you can just do it standing where you're just dropping one at the same time. If you're trying to learn this for the first time on your own, you're trying to teach it to someone, I like to say, hey, get your feet together and I just want you to rotate side to side. So when I rotate my body this way, my arch on my left foot should raise, whereas the arch on my right foot should drop. And then if I go this direction, it's just vice versa. What I'm looking for and I want you to focus on is don't let that knuckle of your big toe lift up off the ground. Really important to focus on that. Do it barefoot, do it in a minimalist style shoe where you're getting a lot of feedback. I'm really focused on rotating my hip and raising and dropping the arch. Okay, moving on to the next exercise. It's really important that you mastered exercise number 1, where you can perform an arch raise as well as an arch drop, and you can do it with good form, keeping the knuckles of your toes down on the ground, right? Because that's gonna make you successful with all the exercises to come. Now we're gonna move into a rear foot elevated split squat, also known as a Bulgarian split squat, but we're gonna focus on one key tip here to cue you to make sure that you're performing this exercise correctly, because way too often I see it performed incorrectly and people are not engaging their foot and their arch, and they're missing out on a lot of power from their hip. So take this band, put it under the knuckle of your big toe. So like I talked about earlier, when our foot is on the ground, it is so important that we're keeping our knuckles engaged, they're down on the ground. And in order to keep this knuckle of the big toe down on the ground, we really have to activate our peroneals. So our peroneals perform ankle eversion, pointing the bottom of our foot out when our foot is up in the air. But when our foot is down on the ground, now it's just pushing this big knuckle, then the knuckle of the big toe down into the ground. So it's just different. You have to wrap your head around it to understand it, but once you do, then it all makes sense. So if I really keep pressure into the ground through my knuckle of my big toe, I'm also going to focus on trying to rotate my heel inward. Now, with this band, I'm going to pull it in this direction because I'm trying to actually pull the inside of my foot up, where that medial arch is going to lift into the air. So with that cue, now I'm really going to feel way more engaged and activated with the ground, with this exercise. And I'm just gonna feel way more stable and way more powerful to really put a lot of force into the ground. So again, a perfect exercise to do either barefoot or in a minimalist style shoe, because if you do it with a cushioned shoe, you're just bound to be wobbling and moving around a little bit too much, and you're not gonna be able to produce as much force, right? Typically with this exercise, we're going for strength, we're going for stability. So I love cushioned shoes. I run in a cushioned shoe when I go longer, but if you perform weightlifting in a cushioned shoe, you're losing out on some force output because of stability. All right, exercise number 3, we're really gonna challenge that frontal plane stability. So arch strengthening exercises is all about being able to control this frontal plane motion. Yes, the muscles that help stabilize your arch are active when we're moving in a forward, backward fashion, as well as rotation. But frontal plane, we typically don't train it that often when it comes to your traditional exercises, but this one is a doozy. So we're gonna be doing a modified Pallof press, where basically we're gonna be in a standing position, we're gonna be in tandem, one foot behind the other, walking a plank, and then from here, we're going to press out, we're gonna slowly bring it back in, and we're gonna repeat. And we can get pretty creative here, but if I press out and I just relax, well, the band just wants to rotate and pull my body this way, or even it wants me to tilt this way. So take a look at what's happening at my feet, at my legs, right? I need to be able to control this rocking around, twisting. You don't want to look like this. If you're looking like this, then you need to change the resistance, or you need to focus in like we're going to do now. So keep pressure into the ground with that knuckle of your big toe. Really root your feet in. We haven't talked about it yet, but from your heel to the knuckle of your pinky toe to the knuckle of your big toe, if you draw a line connecting all those dots, it's a nice triangle. That triangle is your base of support. I want you to maintain tension throughout that triangle, and then that is your tripod that you are working with. So get focused there, maintain pressure. Think you're staying really strong, stable through that triangle. And now from here, you're gonna press out, you're gonna come back in and repeat. So right now, this band is trying to pull me in because I'm actually trying to push down through the knuckle of my pinky toe on this side. I'm actually working my inverters, right? Versus if I were to face the other way, it would be more the everters. You wanna do this on both sides. This is a really good exercise to help stabilize your arch. Give this all the time for anyone that's recovering from an ankle sprain or anything that it may be in the foot and ankle complex, because not only are you training all the stabilizers in the foot and ankle complex, you're working the inverters, the everters. Even if you change your weight or whatever it may be, you're gonna be working your calf, your dorsiflexors. So it's literally everything, but also your hips, also your core. We've talked about it. Take a look at what happens to my foot if I lose hip stability. Where my pelvis goes is going to influence foot and ankle position. My trunk, if I lose balance of this, well, it's going to influence my foot and ankle position. So the more strengthening exercises that we can do with our feet on the ground, the more that we're actually going to be stabilizing the entire system. All right, last but not least, we're going to put it all together now, really focus on three-dimensional strengthening and stability that the foot is so good at being able to accomplish. We're going to do a single leg heel raise with a heel float, and we're going to be really focused on inversion as well as eversion, getting supination and pronation in closed kinetic chain with a heel raise. So this is how it's going to look. From this position, you can really appreciate it. Keep that heel floating the entire time. Keep that knee bent. You're going to raise up, get that heel as high as you can, and try to actually turn the bottom of your heel inward. I want you to have that heel try to face inside at the top of this heel raise. And now when you go to lower down, try to reverse it. Try to get your heel, the bottom of your heel, the face outward. But you're keeping that heel elevated the entire time. And now from this angle, if you watch, you can appreciate that inside medial arch is going to lift up when we're at the top of our heel raise, versus as we come down, we're going to let that arch lower. So let it drop, let it come up. Stay strong through your hip and your thigh. We're not just having a ton of valgus happen. We are letting that thigh and knee rotate in, but nothing too crazy. It's okay for everything to come in, right? There's nothing to demonize about pronation. It's part of loading. It's okay. It's being able to control it at all different speeds, which is the most important piece. So again, take a look over here, raise up, try to supinate, lower down, let pronation happen. Keep that heel floating the entire time. So turn the heel in at the top, twist everything in, turn the heel out, and repeat. Either do it barefoot or do it in a minimalist style shoe where you can get a ton of feedback, because otherwise you're just not going to be able to feel the motion as well as control it as well as we'd like you to with a more cushiony shoe where you're just not getting enough feedback. All right, we're coming to a close on today's video. I hope you learned a few things. More importantly, foot arch strengthening exercises that will help with common foot and ankle issues, as well as any arch pain, any arch issues. You can't go wrong with getting your foot and ankle strong. Now, more importantly, I want to finish with a public service announcement. There is nothing wrong with cushion shoes, really popular trending shoes. I try to keep up with the trends all the time myself, but you're looking at the shoe that I ran a marathon in. I've run hundreds of miles in this type of shoe. It's very cushioned, and I'm going to basically summarize it with, it all depends on context, right? You wouldn't drive a Lamborghini with super low profile tires on a really rocky or traily road. And then vice versa. If you want to go as fast as possible, you probably wouldn't take a truck with really big off-roading design tires on a racetrack. Context depends, and there's nothing wrong with wearing cushion shoes. There's nothing wrong with being barefoot, and there's nothing wrong with taking advantage of a minimalist style shoe. But there are tons of benefits to barefoot training. I spend a lot of time barefoot. I just like it. I feel more connected to the ground. And if you're looking for the benefits of barefoot training, but you don't like being barefoot or you don't find it comfortable, definitely check out a pair of minimalist style shoes. We have a deal going with Vivo Barefoot. Just use the code PREHAB and you'll get 15% off. We'll drop a link in the description. But let us know if you have any questions, concerns, comments, you name it. And until next time, take control of your health.
Hey prehabbers, if you enjoyed our content, go ahead, like and subscribe.
Or better yet, head over to our website in the description below and check out the dozens of programs that we've created to help you take control of your health today.